Okay, we are live. Hello, I'm Howard Mann, creator of Conscious Shifting, and welcome to Conscious Shifting. Before we get started, a quick warning and disclaimer. Conscious shifting and all known side effects will improve your physical, mental, and spiritual health while providing the ideal environment for spiritual awakening, helping you live the life of your dreams and influence the world in a positive way. So, if that's something that interests you, something you'd like to be a part of, then you can either follow us on Facebook or subscribe on YouTube, and then join us here Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. California time for Conscious Shifting. The best way to communicate with us is through our daily thought provoking posts during a live or even a replay of a live. Simply place your question in the comment box and we will respond from a spiritual perspective to the benefit of all. All right. So, rather than a question of the week, I wanted to start with this, and it kind of ties in to what we're talking about. There was a post, I don't know how many of you, hi Richard, hi Susan. I don't know how many of you saw it, but Cheryl posted something that happened to her. Uh, she was driving down the road, and all of a sudden there's this tractor trailer in front of her. And so she slams on the brakes, and was basically ready for impact. Next thing she knows, she's on the other side of this tractor trailer, and in her rearview mirror, it's blocking all four lanes of traffic. She has no idea how this happened because the timing and distance, she should have T-boned this thing. And these are situations that give us confirmation of a divine order to things. Kim had a similar situation out here where we live, very remote area of the desert, and the road that you turn off of to get to our almost 2 mile dirt driveway is the highway. And it's out in the middle of the desert, so there's only one lane each direction. And she was barreling down the highway, 65, 70 miles an hour one time. And all of a sudden she sees in front of her, out here, people coming right off road. This guy pulling out with a big truck, pulling a fifth wheel, which is for those of you that don't know, it's like a giant trailer, like a house on wheels. And so he pulls out. There's four cars that he's going to pass, and about that time they're looking at each other through the windshields, and there's no way this guy's going to make it. But he's already started passing these vehicles. So Kim grips the wheel, tenses up, and closes her eyes, and all of a sudden, nothing happens. She looks in the rearview mirror, and there's this guy somehow back behind these four vehicles when it should have been a head-on. Another situation with this confirmation of the divine, as I call it. Now, for some reason, out of all the miracles, maybe because of the topic tonight, that I could give you an example out of my life, endless miracles, this one's the one that Spirit's nudging me to tell you. So when I was younger, I wasn't always as mellow and sober a fellow as I am right now. And in fact, I used to sing in rock bands. And the first band that I was ever in, the lead guitarist, his mom was really good friends with a priest. And he used to bring her over all this altar wine. So one night we decide we're going to take a few of these bottles. And let me tell you, those priests don't drink grape juice. This stuff, we were loaded. So about 2 a.m, I'm just ripped. In fact, the blood they took at the hospital from me was over three times the legal limit. That's how bombed I was. But for some reason at 2 a.m, I decided that it'd be a good idea to jump my motorcycle. Now at that time I had a street bike with a 4-cylinder engine in it. These things are super front heavy. You can't get these things to pop a wheelie or jump. You just don't do that. But I thought I was gonna do that. And so I did. And again, according to the police report, well in excess of 100 miles an hour, I jumped over this tree. And of course, the thing about these these engines, it's the front heavy. That's why you can't get them off the ground. It's a 4-cylinder engine on the front of the frame. So I came straight down. One of the only times in my life, I don't ride the street anymore, but when I did, I never wore a helmet. And that night I was wearing a helmet for some reason, divine intervention, because I came straight down and smashed into the pavement, broke the helmet in half, totaled the bike. Woke up in the hospital and they were stitching up my chin. That's the only thing that happened to me. And I by all rights, I should have snapped my neck or just blown my melon apart. But no. And so what you get out of these situations is that, like in my case, even the stupid people, if it's not your time, it's not your time. And so there's this, as hard as it is to understand and believe, there's divine intervention that prevents you from stepping out prematurely. And it's confirmation that there is a divine order to all of this and some spiritual rules that apply to life here in the physical realm. And there's purposes that our souls are here for that exceed the limitations of the physical world. And sometimes we get evidence of that in these moments. That's what that is. So that leads us into the topic tonight, which is how to find what you're searching for. I see Richard and Susan and Kim and Ray and Cheryl. The first example of the night, love, laugh, and be happy in the house. Amy and Trey. Hello, everyone. Melissa. Hi, Kathy. Yeah, Kim was saying it was like time stopped. And a lot of times that's kind of how these now in my case, I was unconscious. I woke up in the hospital, but when you're living, and conscious and sober during these things, it is as if time stops. It's a very weird sensation. It's as if time stops and everything is perfectly calm. Perfectly calm. And afterwards, it's hard to, you always go, God, did that really just happened? I mean, that's kind of your reaction to it because it's that unbelievable. And Cheryl right there, reflecting back, definitely reaffirms her faith and belief in divine intervention. Hi, Tracy. Yeah. That's another thing about it. It definitely makes you a believer. Amy, yeah, that was a long time ago. It was fun though. It was, I got to admit. But now I just write books about spirituality. My singing days are over. Yeah, see, now Susan, that's it. Now she's saying that happened to her nephew and he's looking down on us. So, I mean, it doesn't take that much. I forget the exact amount of pounds per pressure, but it's not much. And you'll just pop your head like a watermelon dropping on the ground. And that's it. You're done. Even if you just crack your skull, a lot of times the brain will swell and they can't save you. Yeah, but the spiritual is definitely the way to roll. Mm. Oh yeah. Yeah, and then Kim, her how you can sync these phones to your truck or your vehicle through Bluetooth. Well, Kim's phone starts calling itself, which is weird to begin with, and she couldn't shut it off, and shut down the cruise control and everything, and then there was this. Once she got it all off, finally, there was this huge gust that definitely would have took her off the road and rolled the truck had she not done that. So, why would your phone call itself and just continue doing so and not let you, end the call? It's just these weird things that happen. maybe maybe sometimes exactly words are like a song. My writing is my music now. But yeah, maybe sometime if we get together at a retreat or something, we'll play around. All right, so let's get started with the topic tonight: how to find what you're searching for. And of course, the big question is, for some of you already know, but do you wish you knew how to find what you're searching for? Once again, last year was a hell of a year, hell being the key word. And now it's all just in the shadows, right? Or is it? Is there something more to it? Is there something that's going on a spiritual level? And does that have something to do with the awakening that's coming? And does that have something to do with this topic about how to find what you're searching for? And the answer is absolutely. So, one point is that, if you're not aware of it, then you try to make sense out of this world, and you're usually left feeling a little lost and perhaps off balance or off center. If you've started down the path, it kind of knocks you off your spiritual center, because otherwise, whatever's going on, it wouldn't really bother you. I mean, you might not like it, but you'd also understand that everything's exactly the way it should be, and therefore you'd be okay with it. But my hunch is that there's a lot of people listening to this that are not okay with it at all. And first, let me tell you that I completely understand. I do. But consider for a moment that there may be a reason why. And I would also suggest that I know the reason why. For starters, when you're being triggered by what's going on in the world, it could be emotional trauma that's being triggered, but it could also be that you're starting to awaken and you're starting to realize that what goes on in the world insults your soul. That's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. But you continue down the path and you get to the point to where you recognize that it must be this way. And so everything really is perfect. Exactly, Tracy. Part of the journey is figuring it out. That's that. Hey, Yandandi, welcome. So yeah, figuring it out is really it. That is what, in a sense, a way of looking at what we're here to do, which is to awaken, which means rise in consciousness. So the figuring it out is understanding the level where you're at, which allows you to transcend into an even higher state of consciousness. Hi, Katja. So what I would say about that is that, and you're probably aware of this, that you're searching for something in life, but maybe a lot of you haven't found it yet. And how do I know? Because I've been there. That's what makes talking about this stuff easy for me. Is I don't talk about anything I don't know something about. I've been there, done that. Um, and spirit speaks through me, but when I'm using examples of the physical world, I'm usually talking about something I have firsthand knowledge of. And where I don't, it's science, and I'll go to Einstein or whoever and use their quotes and get an understanding from them about this stuff. But here's things that'll help you. And the first one is stop searching in darkness if you want to find what you're searching for. Now that sounds a little too obvious in one way and a little maybe cutesy in another way. Obviously, if you're in the dark, you're gonna be real difficult to find something. And the thing is that it's a metaphor. And so during the dark of night, there's something to remember, and that is daylight's coming at the end. At dawn, the sun will rise again. But until then, searching for daylight in the darkness is futile, right? Daylight doesn't shine in the middle of the night. But that's, that searching for the light in the dark is exactly what we do through addictions and distractions. Now, they can be many, many, many things. You know, the most basic and the most obvious, of course, is as a coping mechanism, people often form addictions. And most people understand that addictions are always going to fail because they don't address the problem. All they do is kind of cover things up temporarily. Hi, Sue. Sue's University of Life in the house. So sooner or later, you're right back at square one, and usually you're worse for the wear and tear. That's what addictions will do for you. Serial relationships, form of addiction, substance abuse, obviously a common addiction type coping mechanism, but they leave a trail of destruction in their paths. So not the best way to go. And another common distraction is deflection. So rather than take it inward and do some destructive habit, you deflect it elsewhere. For example, you might find faults in others as a way to distract you from your own faults. Because if you were focused on that, you'd actually have to do something about it. But instead, it's easier just to find faults in others. And your faults, just like the faults of others, are generally due to some emotional trauma of some sort. However, finding fault in others and then aggressively pointing it out is hurtful. And it also results in piling more trauma on top of existing trauma for both of you. So again, not the best way to go. Now, there's endless examples we could talk about in as far as distractions and addictions, but you get the idea. Anything that distracts you from your problems is not going to solve your problems. It's an infinite search while never finding. It's like the hamster on the wheel. You just keep running and running and running, and you never get anywhere. Berneo, hi. How you doing? So the bottom line on the first point is that light is not found in darkness. Light illuminates darkness. There's a big difference. If you follow that, a higher level of understanding then would be that rather than look for the light outside where there's just darkness, you find and engage the light within and illuminate the darkness. You see how that works from not just the physical metaphor, but the spiritual truth, the higher truth. Hey, Chris, how's it going? So number two, stop searching through other people's eyes. And that's something else that a lot of people do. They're looking for something, and they never find it. But the problem is that they're looking for it in the opinions of other people. And it's not going to get the job done. Putting yourself in other people's shoes or seeing things through their eyes is what we call empathy. And empathy is suitable for being compassionate with dealing with others. But using your eyes when you're doing your inner work would be best. Only through your eyes can you see into your soul. I'm talking, not just with your eyeballs, but the point of view. All right. So your spiritual eye, if anything. And this is critical to find what you're searching for. You see, again, going inward to the soul, not outward to the exterior world. Susan's under a tornado watch. Yeah, if you disappear, we'll know you're hiding out. And we will pray. No worries there. Her sister had a stroke on Saturday. Ew. I'm glad she's going to be okay. Extensive therapy. Yeah. Yep. And Chris, been talking about empathy with my friends all night. So there's your confirmation. Synchronicities abound. All right. So you're only going to find what you're looking for from your soul's point of view, not from the opinions of others. And that's so why do we do that? Well, because we fear other people's judgment, we fear non-acceptance. But that's, if you live your life that way, you're really just wearing a mask. And what you think of others, or what you think others want you to be, is the mask that you wear. But I would suggest that in opinions, they don't even know. Because they're doing the same thing. And then they're projecting that out like, oh, well, in the world, this is the way it's got to be. According to what? The world? The level of consciousness that's manifesting the world is not the level of consciousness that's going to heal the world, right? We got to rise a little bit above where we're at before things are going to shift, and we're going to create heaven on earth, which will be done. Hey, AJ, how's it going? But I know, Chris, huh? But that shift in consciousness has to happen first, because that's what's going to manifest it. So wearing masks, all you're really doing is just projecting a wishful image. It's a wannabe. That's all it is. And wearing masks for other people's perception creates a false impression of you, the opposite of authentic, which is really what you want, right? We'll get there. We'll tie this together at the end of this, but I'm just dropping a hint. That's really what you want. It's not about the opinions of others or the world, or it's about you being your authentic self. That's what you're here to do. Hi, Betsy. How you doing? Hi, AJ. So masks cover up the real you. If you're hurting, wearing a mask of denial doesn't stop the hurt, does it? It's simply pretending things are different. Kind of makes you wonder why we manifested the whole pandemic and when everyone was wearing masks in the first place. But I'm not going to go down that road tonight. But there are some parallels there if you want something to think about. So people unconsciously will say and do hurtful things. They'll lie, they'll cheat, they'll steal. And sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones that'll betray you. And so those are the opinions that you're trying to live up to. I don't think that's going to work out too good. Eventually, even if there's no betrayal involved, people that you're close to, people that you love, they're going to get sick and die. We're all going to. I mean, that's called physical life, and it goes on. But only by the real you showing up can you heal and live authentically. And that ultimately is going to be what heals the world. That ultimately is going to be what creates heaven on earth. That really is what the awakening is. Because when the real you shows up, you're talking about spirit. You're not talking about the personality. You're not talking about any of these masks or roles that we play for the world. You're talking about eternal spirit. Chris says it's amazing how we care so much about what some people will think instead of fully just going for it and being ourselves. I know. It's mind-boggling, but we've been conditioned to do that. That's what we're taught. It's been handed down for thousands of years, and we're taught at a very young age before we even have the ability to discern for ourselves. We're conditioned beings, if nothing else. So another thing is to stop searching throughout time. That's something else. I'm playing with the words a little bit, but that's something else that people do. And in a sense, time travel is possible, but it's not what you think. First, if you're haunted by people or events of the past or the future, realize that they're only ghosts of reality, mere figments of your imagination, vague possibilities, or just shadows of the past, traumatic shadows of past moments, perhaps, but that's all they are. And same could be said for the future. You can get anxious about all the what ifs, and it can end up being like the same thing as past trauma, but of the future. And fear of the future is like, in a very real sense, almost the same. The past, granted, is something that happened. You're fearing that it's going to happen again. Fear of future possibilities, horrible things happening, is kind of like that fear of the past thing happening again. It's all fear. It's not happening. That's the point. Betsy says that that's the advantage of age. You care way less. I know. You get a lot better at just, okay, because you realize how messed up the world is, and so it's not so important to live up to it. You live long enough, and you're going to realize that all of your idols, at some point, let you down. They do. No matter how clean, no matter how righteous you think they are, they fall. And when they do, you're disappointed. You put all this faith and belief in them, and then they disappoint you. And so eventually you learn not to put so much faith in them, to put faith in spirit. And then that frees you to be your authentic self. You're not so worried about what other people think, because you see how messed up everything really is. Betsy says, read about time slips. Benjamin Hardy wrote the book. Interesting. I'll have to look for that. Chris says, how can we tap into more of our future selves for what we need to know? That is a great question, as Trey says. When you get really good at connecting to your soul, understand that your soul is presence, spiritual presence, not subject. It's not of the physical world, so it's not subject to the limitations of time and space. So as you get better and better at just being present in the moment and connecting to your soul, you become more and more able to perceive all of your timelines, both past and future, because they're all happening right now. Time is an illusion. Even our quantum physics proves this. It doesn't actually exist. Time is a perception of the human psyche, the ego. So once you understand that all of your timelines are all happening at the same time, but you're limited conscious when you're dealing with just the human consciousness, can't perceive those, but your soul can, because your soul is living all of them. And they're all happening now. And this moment is the PowerPoint. This moment is the one place where they're all connected. Because this moment, presence, is not subject to time. You see, being present is getting you very close to connecting to your soul. And your soul literally is eternal, not subject to time. So it has knowledge and is living all of your timelines, past and future, simultaneously. You, being in this incarnation, if you're only identified with your human psychic, your intellect, then you're creating spiritual blocks to understanding that. So to undo those spiritual blocks, you have to connect more with your soul. Now that's takes some doing. All the things we talk about here get you closer to that, help you, all from different angles. But that really is what it's all about. It always comes back to that. Betsy says, Mike Dooley addresses this question. All these great books I've never read. Kim, no wonder I'm tired. Oh, thank you, Chris. So all of these traumatic shadows of the past and the future, they may seem real, but they're not real. Not in this moment anyway. All suffering of past or possible future moments is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. The past and the future trauma is brought into the present as if it's happening now. So where I'm talking about, connecting with your soul, which is experiencing all of these lifetimes from a spiritual perspective, most humans, if they even are involved with time, are locked into the subconscious. And it's either anxiety of the future or fear or regret of the past, which are of the ego. You see the difference? All these negative emotions are based in identification with the physical world. When you're identified with the physical world, you're creating spiritual blocks. But it's only through your spiritual essence that you can understand all and have access to all. So that's why I say connecting with your spirit is the way to roll. But the way it works is it's very much, on a psychological level, it's very much like post-traumatic stress disorder, because you're taking this trauma that's not happening at the moment in where you're at in this moment. It's not happening right here, but you're bringing it here, either through imagining the possibilities that may happen, may turn out bad, and creating this nightmare scenario, or remembering something that wasn't so pleasant of the past, something that you did actually experience, and fearing that it's going to happen again. But either way, the point is that they're not happening right now, at least not in this timeline. But you're dragging them into this timeline along with all of the trauma. And so you're reliving the pain over and over and over as if it's happening right now. That is basically the definition of hell, is it not? Eternal torture. It's a level of consciousness. And that toxic energy, as long as you're doing that, continues to reap havoc on your emotional health and your physical health, because your body is literally living through that as if it's happening right now. If you could hook yourself up to all kinds of electronic machines and instruments, and you were aware of your temperature and your heart rate, your stress levels and your hormones, what was being released and how much of it, and you're contemplating, anxiety of the future or fear or something of the past, those levels would be the same as if you were actually going through it right now. And so is the damage that's being done. But on a spiritual level, it's also creating blocks to the spiritual realm. You're locking yourself in. You're grounding yourself in this reality, which is an illusion at best. I mean, yeah, in a sense it's happening, but not really, because it's always changing. So how can it be real? It's just a perception of this moment and then it's gone. Now we're perceiving this moment and then it's gone. Spirit, it's fluid. It just is what it is. And all of these timelines, if you were to see them from a spiritual perspective, it's instantaneous. There's no, it's more like a a movie of everything happening versus a camera that takes still shots of moments. On the physical level, it's more like those still shots. On a spiritual level, it's more like that fluid movie. It's just, it is what it is. It's happening. Hi, Christina. Yes. And Kim says, even when you get angry too. Yep. If you knew the destructive hormones that's being released into your body when you're angry, and you do that over and over and over, it will cause cancer. It will cause heart disease. Stress is the leading cause of most disease. It's, for the most part, it's self-inflicted. Maybe not intentionally, but it's self-inflicted. Trey says that's what makes trains release work so freely. Yes. And it's like weights being lifted off of you when you let it go. Thank you, Chris. Hey, Billy. So you can move out of yesterday's shadows and into today's light at any moment. You are more than capable. You have that power. It's a choice. That's all. Despite what it may seem like, it is nothing more than a choice. What you choose to place your attention on. The past and the future are not now. Only this moment is now. And this moment is all that exists. In fact, this moment is all that will ever exist. Whether you're talking about a physical or a spiritual perspective, this moment is all that will ever exist. It's just that spirit sees it, the whole thing, in one shot. We see a very limited view of it. Chris says Bruce Lipton talks about all of this. He was the original person doing stem cell research who became spiritual because of it. Yes, he actually realized that unlike what we were taught in school, that your DNA controls you, you're just this robot. What he realized was that the DNA doesn't control anything. It's just like a template that you assemble amino acids on. Amino acids, when they're assembled, are the proteins that make up everything biological. So all it is a template. It's like a map or a blueprint, plans. That's all it is. What's actually happening is the cell is making decisions about what part of the DNA to pay attention to and what part of it to ignore, and when necessary, in the case of evolution, when to create some new coding. And it bases those decisions on its environment. So it's actually perceiving the environment and making a decision based on the information that it's getting. Now, where all this leads to, and what made Dr. Lipton's research even more amazing, is that he was talking about, well, then if the cell is perceiving its environment and making decisions about how to behave based on that, and the cell is within the body, what environment is there? Most of it is controlled by the brain. And then it stands to reason that even if you want to talk about what hormones or chemicals are being released, that would be some information that the cell might use beyond thought energy. But thought energy is the one that controls which chemicals are being released, because the thoughts are what's telling the glands what to do. So in other words, if we're really thinking destructively or negatively, the cells are going to act accordingly because they're getting their information from our thoughts. So we literally create our own disease in most cases. In most cases. It's called epigenetics if you want to look it up. And it's how the thoughts control the biology of the human organism. Hi, Anna. Amazing stuff. So there's something else about the here and now, and that is that it's where all healing takes place. It's where all healing takes place. Healing happens in the now. At this moment, for example, forgiveness is a very potent medicine going right to epigenetics. Forgiveness and releasing that toxic energy and giving the cells something other than that toxic energy to base their decisions on, your biology is going to react accordingly. Forgiveness is a healing energy that goes even beyond the body. It can travel through time, both past and future. In a sense, you can time travel. You can't physically go back and change past events, but you can send healing energy back in time and heal the past, because healing's done on a spiritual level. I'm not talking about physical curing. I'm talking about healing. I'm talking about getting to the root of the problem, and from a higher perspective, understanding the truth of it. That's healing. That's done on a spiritual level. And since spirit is eternal and not subject to time, that energy can move both backwards and forwards in time, because it's only limited here. We're limited by it in a sense, but our soul, spirit, is not. So the healing then can time travel and heal past and even future, because what you do in the present determines the future. So if in the present you heal things, then the future is going to be better, as well as all the people that come after you that you influence. Christina, everyone's genes are not the same, so how do we get the same results? Everyone's genes are not identical, but the majority of what the genes do is controlled by what we think. So if we're thinking healthy thoughts, the genes are going to respond. Actually, it's the cells that respond using the genes, which is like DNA coding. So in other words, picture you're in a cell and here comes a negative thought. It comes through the nervous system down, and you sense that there's a problem. Oh no, I'm anxious about the future, or whatever it is. So the cell just, there's a problem, we need to go into stress mode. So it starts producing things to deal with stress that will create disease eventually, as opposed to and then the cell receives this peaceful message, everything's cool. So the cell does things accordingly. And that's has a healing effect on the body. So you can get the same results because you're using the power of the mind to tell the cells what to do. There are a few exceptions. You have less than 2% of the population that have a legitimate birth defect. And so somewhere in their DNA, not all their DNA, but like one part of it, there's something that's funky with the coding and it causes problems. But you're talking less than 2% of the population. The other 98% plus, the disease is self-inflicted. It's actually self-created. And even for the people that have the defect, the rest of their biology is fine. So they have a lot more control than you would think. They're not entirely victims, but they do have like one little thing that needs to be addressed. But it's actually the other way around, that the majority of everything is what we do based on what we think, which is based on what we believe. It really goes directly to your beliefs, which is why spirituality is so important and so healing, because it's higher truths. So you're going to manifest higher realities. Kathy, because we're all spiritual beings from one source. Exactly. Technically, at the end of the day, ultimately, we're one spirit. That's part of the illusion. We're not even individual mind bodies interacting with other mind bodies. That's from the ego's perspective. That's part of the illusion. If you could see all energy and see everything that's going on, you would see that there's one spirit and there's just this interaction, this play of energy going on. All this stuff is something that we've cooked up. That was the fall from grace. We manifested, when we descended into matter, we manifested these mind bodies and all these props, but then we started identifying with it as if it were the reality. That's where we really messed it up. But that I could spend. I'll write a whole book on that one. That's a lot to get into. Christina, so will positive thinking backfire? Nope. No, there's no harm in it. I mean, yeah, if you're delusional, perhaps, but no, positive thinking is just going to produce better results. That's all. It's not the end of it. There's more to understand than that. But in general terms, positive thinking is much better than negative thinking. And negative thinking, negative beliefs, you're going to manifest a negative reality, negative results. You're going to attract negativity, toxic energy to you. And then you're going to absorb it. And then you're going to say, see, I knew that's how it was. There's my confirmation. No, you created it and then believed your own hype is what happened. Now you can do the same thing with positive, but actually, ultimately, you want to transcend above all of that, the world of duality, to where it's not even that. It is what it is. There's no good, there's no bad. You rid yourself of all these opinions and judgments. That's how spirit rolls. And she asked, but if you can be positive and crappy stuff still happens? Yeah, because you're in a world, okay, a certain amount of this is on you, but you're also in a world with, I don't know how many billions or trillions of people are on this planet right now. And this reality is a manifestation of our collective consciousness. So there's a certain amount you can do on your own, but all you're really doing is let's just say it's 1 trillion. You're influencing 1/1,000,000th of the reality, a lot more of your own personal reality. That's why I say you can be okay with all this stuff going on in the world, because you understand, well, this is just where everyone's at. The answer is that when people rise above it. But until more people do, until the collective consciousness moves into a higher state of being, this is the reality that we're going to be living. And since you're here at this time, you're subject to it. But you'll deal with a lot less of it with the right mindset. And what you do deal with, you'll deal with a lot better. But yeah, you're not going to escape it. You're in the physical world. And right now, this is where what's going on in the physical world, you know? Yep, exactly, Chris. Awesome, Billy. So, yeah, when you start seeing this stuff, it really hits home for you. So the last thing is stop searching outside of yourself, because that's not where what you're looking for is. In case you haven't realized it yet, what you've been in search of is you. That's to say, your true self. You may not quite understand that yet. And you probably don't understand all the ramifications of that. But I'm not talking about the world's version of you. That's low-level crap. And nothing in this world has anything to do with who and what you are. Nothing. Nothing. The physical world is just that. Physical. And right now, predominantly of low consciousness, collectively, that is. Of course, this includes your mind, body, and world events. You're on this planet, yeah, you're going to deal with some stuff. But you are spirit, eternal spirit. Nothing that goes on here has anything to do with who you are, what you are. It doesn't change any of that in the least. It just doesn't. And some of the details of this incarnation, yeah, but this is nothing. It's like a game we're playing right now. And the game's over, you go home. So what you've been searching for outside of yourself can only be found deep within. And you know what else? It's always been there. Because again, you are spirit. and spirit is eternal. Spirit or supreme consciousness is non-physical, not bound by time or space. That's what I mean by eternal. You always have been and you always will be. That's one of those heavy ramifications I was talking about. So what you do, we tend to identify with the ego, and we tend to identify with our intellect and our opinions and our judgments and the opinions and judgments of other people in the world, and especially the really smart people in the world, or the really cool and hip people in the world. But if you really want to know, let go. Let go of all of it. Let go and know. Stop searching outside yourself for what's already inside. You know, and you're blocking your access to that knowledge with the opinions of the world. And what's outside? Lower consciousness. Newsflash, nothing good's going to come from that. It's just, it's just how it is. Lower consciousness and the resulting emotional trauma stem from physical existence. Shame, guilt, depression, anger, hatred, fear, anxiety are all from identification with the physical world. But deep within resides the real you. And when you remove all that's not you, only you are left. In a sense, love is all that's left. Because love is lack of trauma. In other words, total healing. That's why love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love is spirit in action. It's not, I'm not talking about the emotion love, I love you, here's your Valentine's card. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about unconditional love. So when you identify with your true spiritual essence, you transcend the physical world into a state of consciousness that can best be described as unconditional love. Nirvana, heaven. And if enough people did that, what would we manifest? Nirvana, heaven, just as we're manifesting this. So you may not fully understand it yet, but everything you do is an attempt to self-realize. Everything. Sometimes we get it right and we move a little closer to that self-realization. Sometimes we really mess it up and set ourselves back. But everything you do is an attempt to self-realize. And that's precisely how you find what you're searching for. You get it? Only through self-realization can you express your authentic self. From a spiritual point of view, everything happens in life exactly as it is supposed to, exactly when it is supposed to, and ends exactly when it's supposed to. And therein lies both the beauty and the wonder of life. It's just something we're doing at the moment. For whatever reason. And I wonder about this sometimes myself. For whatever reason, we had it all. And we were sitting there one day going, God, what would it be like if we weren't just this one spirit? What would it be like if we weren't in the presence of God? And then there was this big bang, and here we are. Why? I'm not sure. That was the fall from grace. And so now we're scrambling to get back home. And the way we do that is to self-realize. Because once we realize who and what we are, which is what Jesus did, we ascend, But our love, then, in other words, the illusion then disappears. And what's left is what's real, which is eternal, and free of all of this negative stuff. It's heaven, right? So that's it. That's it. Sue's agreeing. Chris, and when we fully understand this, there is no fear of dying or anything that can happen to us because we are eternal beings. Exactly. So what Jesus was like, they're hanging him on a cross and people are crying. He's like, what? This is nothing. This isn't me. You know, I'm fine. Sue, my monkey mind is constantly trying to get me. Not a chance. I'm in soul energy and I see it. Yep. Exactly. You got to hold your spiritual center. Do not identify with the ego, or hell's going to be the result. Just how it is. You like that, Kim? Love is spirit in action. All right, so there it is. If you'd like to participate in the healing circle, hang around. We'll move right into that. And if there's any other questions, I'll address them. But I don't see any right now. So let's just move on with the healing circle. Get the thingy up here. That way, if someone comes in, they're not like, whoa, what are these people doing? They're just sitting here. This guy's not saying nothing, It's kind of weird if you haven't been here before. All right, everybody gather around, join hands. That's right, form a circle, join hands, gently closing your eyes and your mouths, breathing through the nose down to an area just below the belly button, and then exhale back out through the nose. And again, big, deep breath, way down. And then exhale. And once again, inhale peace. And exhale tension. You can work mantras into your breathing if you want. Inhale peace. And exhale tension. Inhale the presence of God. And exhale all that is not. How's that one for a mantra? Okay, so continue breathing on your own. Settle into the relaxation. Don't get caught up on things. If you feel sensations, if you become aware of things, just notice them, but don't get too focused on them. Just like, oh, that's nice, but you just want to remain calm, still, and alert and observing what is. So some of you may feel that we're holding hands. Contemplate that sometime. But anyway, let the energy flow. Let go of all negative thoughts, shame, guilt, resentment, depression, fear, anger, anxiety. These are false beliefs. They're not just emotions. They are, but they're false beliefs. Low vibrating energy, reaping havoc on our mind bodies. The power of the healing circle is that healing energy is high vibrating energy, and high vibrating energy disperses lower energies, healing emotional wounds, uniting you and your soul. And when you rid yourself of all that you are not, what's left? You, the authentic you. You are an extremely high vibrating spiritual energy, best described as unconditional love. Words actually don't do it justice, but that's close. Close as we're going to get. Constant compassion, understanding, and forgiveness are all you know as spirit. It's all you know. It's all that exists. And therefore, it's all you manifest. The power of love is healing energy. Allow all that you are not to fade away. Allow compassion, understanding, and forgiveness to disperse the lower energies. Healing emotional wounds, uniting you and your soul. Bathe in the healing energy. You can visualize, if you're so inclined, as bright light, the presence of God descending down upon the healing circle. The light and the dark we were talking about, illuminating the healing circle, going through our crowns, straight down our spine, out our central nervous system, illuminating our entire bodies, so that there's just this one big glow, sparkly light, if you will. But the energy is real, regardless of how you perceive it. You can sense it. You can feel the sensations that it manifests. You can see the work that it does. You can see the results. So bathe in that healing energy until there's only unconditional love. Until that's all that exists. And just hold that vibe. Let's sit with that for about a minute and then we'll close. Okay. So now let's take this healing energy and let it expand. Visualize it as a big heart around planet Earth. Just expand out until the whole planet's surrounded by this healing energy. You can visualize it in the shape of a heart if you like. The whole planet submersed in it. Healing all. And just hold that vibe. And so it is. All right. And then special prayers for Susan's, one of her family members going to undergo some physical therapy, probably pretty intensive for a stroke. So visualize her family's body. See it as an energy system. And then see that system working perfectly. And any blockages, see them as a dark mist that's being dispersed by the light. Until there's nothing but light and total healing. And so it is. All right, slowly open your eyes. And that's it for tonight. Oh, you're all quite welcome. Christina, which book should I read first? I would start with Limited to Limitless. Start with that one. At the top of the page, either at the bottom of the page on the website, but at the top of the page, the featured post on Facebook. The books are in order. So Limited to Limitless, I'd probably start with that one. That's a great intro. You can move on to Rise. That deals more specifically with negative emotions. And the third one is kind of like going deeper than the first one went. But I'd probably read them in that order. You're all quite welcome. Evangelist Rashida, welcome. From Pakistan, awesome. Reverend Prayers back at you. Cheryl says she feels God's presence here, very powerful energy felt, unconditional love, compassion, spirit abounds. So very thankful for this family. Amen. Trey, healing tears. Awesome. Kim reminding everybody to drink a full glass of water, stay hydrated when we're doing energy work. Richard, thanks for helping us move out of the darkness of yesterday into the light of today. Well put. And Kim, have an awesome rest of the week. You're all very welcome. I honor the God in you. And remember, until the next time, the only way to bring about the greater good is to be the greater good. Good night.